And so the first thing I want to show you is how to view your courses, how to do the advisor role, and your analytics. Okay, so as I said, there's videos embedded in here. This particular video will show you how to search for courses. And when you go into the courses, just give you a quick glance. Again, you're going to be seeing a lot of things in the courses. You're going to see your teachers are doing very different things as they learn to kind of organize their content. But the way Schoology wants you to think about it is they're dividing their content into two different segments. Informational content, which is what we would tell teachers to use for that practice step. That learn it step. And then interactive content, which is what we would tell them to use for their practice it, and what we kind of call prove it, but it's the evidence of learning step. Okay. So you've probably, as you've talked to or looked at some of your teachers' stuff already, you're probably noticing lots of folders. We are telling people to use those as kind of modules, which is what Canvas calls it. But it's kind of like the module for what we suggest to be the week, right? And inside of that, we actually discourage the use of just file uploads and links with teachers because they exist out of context. So if you just have a link uploaded, it might go to something great, but if it doesn't frame it in any way that it's a lesson, then it's not very useful. We encourage people to put informational content on a page where you can still link out and upload files and do all the stuff that you want to do. Active content, I'm sure you're used to already. Obviously, discussion boards, which most of us are very familiar with, they work just like typical discussion boards always have, except for they have that mic option that kids can record an audio response or a video response. Assignments is where, well, discussions, assignments, and assessments is what's actually called, are the only things that can be graded. So for anybody that's working with GVA out there, all their stuff needs to be one of those three things because they're doing grades in Schoology now. So all of it's in there. And we have a lot of people that were posting everything to a page, and that can't happen. If it has to have grades, it has to be posted as a discussion, assignment, or assessment, one of these things that can be graded. But this is what we want our people to do for that practice step. It's interactive in some way, shape, or form. Okay. So let me go into Schoology and I'll show you how to navigate that. So you can go, if you have a second device, you can follow me on this. And this is also what the video shows as well. Okay. So the first thing you're going to do as a principal, you should see a tools button right here. You should see a tools button right there. What happens is if you don't see a tools button, then you're not in as a principal right this second. That should be working correctly. So what happens is every night when you're uploaded along with your staff, you actually come in as a teacher, and every night sweet little Barbara James is putting in an override to make you a building admin. So it overrides the teacher role for you and makes you a principal. So if that glitches, you won't have that tool, and it's easy fix. Just hit your ITF up and we can change that, or Barbara James up and we can fix that. But everybody should be straight today because Barbara fixed all that up yesterday. But the way to view your courses is to go to courses. These will be the courses that you are currently in or teaching. So this is where your teacher would go to do most of their work. But if you go over to the right-hand side, you'll see kind of a, it doesn't look much like a button, but it is. Go to My Courses. And this is where you'll see a list of all courses you teach or are a student in all together. So that big visual menu only shows 12. This will show everything, okay? You as a principal have something teachers do not have. Over here, you have that search menu, okay? And the search menu doesn't work super well unless you do one specific filter for whatever reason. We've gone back and forth with Schoology about this, and this seems to be the fastest way to search. If you go to school and you filter it down to your school, and then you search by maybe the teacher's last name, it will pop up. You'll see that you see a list of all the courses that that teacher teaches. Now, be aware that you're going to see some wild stuff in there. If you are working with a GVA teacher, you're going to see a whole lot of courses, right? So when they tell you that they have a whole bunch of homerooms, you can see here the evidence of that. If you want to go into one of these courses, you simply click it. Okay, I don't want to put this curriculum on the spot, so I'm just going to go back to one of my fake courses so you can see what's what. So you'll just click on it. And when you do, you will see basically what those students see. So you can see here how the teacher has it organized. So you're seeing it not as a student or a teacher, but as a viewer, an outside viewer. Okay. So you won't be able to submit any assignments or anything of that nature, and you won't be able to change anything, but you can see what's going on in their class. Okay. You can also click on members over on the left side, and you should be able to view if there's any students in that class that have a parent attached. You can see the parent's name underneath the student's name, and this is where students can be messaged individually, or a teacher could message an individual parent without emailing. Okay, so this is the best way to kind of go in and take a look at, a class. I've talked to a couple of principals who wanted to join all their classes, and actually would recommend against that, because I hope for what's a pretty obvious reason. If we go to that class list for this, in this case, Brandy Bridgman classes. But some of those you wouldn't need to join. Like, you don't really need to join her homeroom or her learning lab or recess, but still you're going to join 7, 8, 9 classes per teacher. Multiply that out over your school, you've got a lot of courses, and it's not going to be that manageable. So I think it's probably actually faster to come in here and search for 3, 4, 5, 6 teachers a day than it would be to sit down and try to comb through hundreds of courses. Okay, so that's what I would suggest. I know some people are willing to jump into courses anyway, and that's certainly fine, but your list is just going to be gigantic. So either way works. Just want to show you what's what. As far as recommendations, you can also go in and what I'm looking for if I were to look at a class is I'm looking to see how it's organized. I personally would be looking to see that there's not just links floating in there, that there's not just somebody that's uploading, go to this website. That's just not good instruction. So I'm looking inside these folders to see how far a kid has to go to get to content. And our rule of thumb is we want them to get to their content within like 3 clicks. So once they jump into their science, I should be 3 clicks away from doing something, right? Otherwise, you know as well as I do, that the kids and the parents are going to get lost. If you feel yourself getting lost looking at the course, then imagine a person outside of education trying to get through it. It's not going to work, right? So it doesn't mean there's a right or wrong way to format things. We have a lot of people doing a lot of different things that all work. But again, I think to me, the cardinal sin, I guess, would be those floating links where they just attach a link or attach a document and there's nothing framing it. That's just not good instruction. It's not instruction at all. It's just here's the resource. So that's the best way to get into your courses. The other thing you can see while you're in courses is you should be able to go to analytics here on the left, and that will give you some basic analytics for just that course. This is about as granular as it gets. I don't have a lot of content in there, so maybe that's why it's doing it for me. That's my fake course, so let me go into someone else's actual course. I'm going to do a home room because I don't want to show anybody's grades or anything, especially since I'm recording. There we go. Yeah, so this is a home room, so it shouldn't have any stuff here. Anyway, so you'll see right here that it will say these are the kids' names, and it will say over here when they last accessed Schoology and when they last accessed course material. So what that means is these guys logged into Schoology, but they didn't do anything in this course ever, which is fine because it's homeroom. But you should see that they've done something in that course if there's work to be done in the course. If this were ELA, I would expect everybody's name to be lit up, right? If I go to total time spent, we're seeing that varies quite a lot. Schoology doesn't really specify what total time spent means. Does it mean they're looking at the screen? Does it mean they're doing something? Does it mean if I put a Google assignment and I click on it and it takes me out to Google, does that count? So I wouldn't use that for any meaningful metric or measure of success, right? So this is just, can the kid get in? So if it's the situation where they say, my son hasn't been in 3 days because it hasn't worked, yeah, you have. That's an easy one. But that's about as granular as it's going to get. The other place you would be looking then would be the grade book. And it looks just like PowerSchool grade book, like any other grade book with a list of names and columns for every assignment, okay? Keep in mind that no one outside of GVA is required to use the gradebook in Schoology right now. So if you go in there and find that there's assignments, there should be assignments there, but if you find there's no grades, don't be alarmed. They should be in PowerSchool. Though we obviously want activities that could be graded to be posted in Schoology. So before I leave courses, are there any questions about what you can view inside of a course? Megan says it's a good place for attendance. Yeah, you can see that they're logged in, at least at the very least, right? So
I have a question.
Yeah.
Would there ever be a need, like for those of us who are teaching asynchronous students, when you're on that page that lists their name and their total time spent, would there ever be a need, or what would happen if we click on their name? Would it give us any more details, or is that really as far as we need to go?
I don't think so. I'm kind of alarmed that this keeps happening. I don't believe it's going to give us any more detail. I think I'm thinking another screen I'm going to show you would be better for you. Like, because you're just saying if I want to peep in on a specific student to check in, there's going to be a better place for that. So I'll show you one other place. I said that was the most granular.
Okay.
There's one more place. Yeah, sorry about that. All right, so that's the first thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll show you. I think it'll be more what you want. In fact, it's the next thing. I can't do this actually because I don't have access to do it. I can show you what it looks like. Tyler was kind enough to do some screenshots for me in her role. It's called Advisor Dashboard. And I think it's probably the reason it's called Advisor Dashboard is probably more meant for like a guidance counselor, student advisor kind of role. I guess that's why Schoology named it that. But if you go into your tool menu, which is where we're going to stay the rest of the time, the first option is Advisor Dashboard. And this is where you could type in a kid right here. And if you type in a teacher, by the way, it'll show if they've done things in courses as a student. So it's really for a student watch, but it does work for adults that have been students in courses, if that makes sense. But I can't type anybody in. But if you type someone in here, it should work for you. And you should see a summary, a calendar, and their grades. You won't see attendance because we don't do attendance in Schoology. But I'll show you what the screens look like, and you're welcome to give it a shot since you can. But you'll see a summary of the courses that they're in and their current grade in that course. Again, that's the Schoology grade though, right? So it might not match the PowerSchool grade. So it's not something you're going to want to report to a parent. But you can also go to their calendar and you can see the items that they should be doing. So what would appear on this calendar would be assignments that have been assigned to them by any of their teachers from any of the courses, okay? Also, if someone has used the calendar button to add an event, which you could do, that's not something people really do right now, but you can do that. And obviously I'm not going to show you the grade screen because it's real grades, but if you go to the grade screen, it'll show you all the grades for that student in that class. Okay, that's probably the best way to look. If I have a parent that's called and I want to know what to do, and I want to know what's going on with this kid directly and immediately, that's probably the fastest way to do it. And so Jamie, that's probably where I would go for that. That should work.
So Jill, maybe I can ask you a question. When I click on calendar for my student, there's nothing there. So if it's being pushed out by the other people and it's just my job to grade it, I guess my question is that my responsibility to build something so that it shows up on this kid's calendar, or is that going to eventually happen for me?
So the stuff that shows up on the calendar are assignments. So I know that some of the initial content pushed out wasn't actually an assignment, it was a page. But as we move to doing, and Shannon asked me about this just yesterday, actually. She said, if grades are going to be done in Schoology, they can't be pages, right? And I was like, no, they have to be assignments, discussion boards, and or assessments. I know some of them were discussion boards, Jamie. So what would happen is when you pull in, or when a teacher pulls in the content from GBA or from asynchronous, I guess, you get the content, but some of it's going to fall apart when you pull it in, because if it belonged to like a specific human, even if it's shared to you, you might have to reattach some of it. We've talked to them a lot about that. And when you pull in, say, a discussion board, it strips off the date. So like if Kyle made a discussion board that was due tomorrow, it would appear on my kid's calendar. But if you copied my discussion board, maybe your discussion board, even though it's a copy of mine, isn't due tomorrow. So you would need to assign it dates. And teachers have been shown how to go in and edit and do that. But it is definitely something you forget, right? Because you copy it in and you think you're good. but you need to add due dates, add like categories for the grade book and that sort of thing to make it work. And that is actually what would trigger it to go onto the calendar when it receives that date. So that's probably what's happening.
So will we get follow-up training in that? Or and I'm sure maybe I'm not the only one, but anybody who's teaching asynchronously?
It's been part of the Wednesday training already, but asynchronous, Jill, are asynchronous people coming to like the PLC, the regular PLCs throughout the week?
No, because that's when they're doing their dismissal at their schools. But we need to probably get a time schedule. Sorry, I'm in a classroom. We need to get a time schedule that we can do that with them.
Okay. So Jamie, one of the things we've done is that was actually part of our training yesterday, Wednesday. That wouldn't have worked for a lot of GBA people because there was a big GBA meeting yesterday. But yes, there's been training, and there can definitely be more training for that type of thing.
And I'll work with Kyle to get that scheduled. I'm sorry, I'm just seeing this for the first time too, so I haven't even processed through this yet.
Yeah, and it's not but this calendar view is something that you as an administrator would want to look at more often, but a teacher doesn't really look at it as much. And what I mean by that is if I'm in my class, teachers don't even have that button, not that type of calendar. They have a calendar over here. But if I'm in my class, what you'll see is right here. You'll see the stuff you have upcoming that you're expecting kids to turn in. Built in, kind of like Google Classroom in that respect. But the way that you change the dates, just so you know real fast, is when you pull in a folder, you can edit anything by hitting the gear. Now this is one of my courses, so don't be shocked if you can't do this in one of the courses you're looking at, okay? Because I'm in as the teacher of this course, obviously. This is actually my course. And you would go to, well, that's not an assignment, silly me. All right, for an assignment, you would go to here and you would just put in the date. So when you pull this in from your asynchronous, when your asynchronous teachers pull this stuff in, this stuff won't appear. Which makes sense, right? Because they're copying the content, but you could have copied that content from another school district. So this due date stuff, I mean, this assignment could have been a year old. In some cases, next year it will be. So I would need to assess the due dates and tell it how I want to grade it and that sort of thing. This particular screen was part of the first training with teachers, just so you know. But when they copy it in from other classes, they do make the assumption that it'll just be there, and it's just not, and it shouldn't be. But it is something you got to think about. That's a great question because it's something that teachers don't always think about as we learn, kind of get used to this. All right, the next thing is usage analytics. There's a video about this, and then I'll get into groups for the second sort of part of this, second half of this. Usage analytics, if you go back to tools, is the second option. Should be the only one you have there. I think you'll have school management as well. So when you go to usage analytics, this one is not as important as I think the other two ways to find data. It sounds like this would be the place to go, but I don't find that it often is. When you click on schools, you can drill down to your specific school. And you may only see your schools here, I'm not sure. But it shows here, all this shows is logins. So you see this giant dip, that was the weekend, so that shouldn't be too alarming. But Belmont Central looking here has 6,700 student logins over the last 7 days. That's not something that I really need to worry about. So I don't find this particular bit of data all that important. Underneath here, though, I do like this. Here, I should see that pages, discussions, assignments, and eventually assessments. We haven't trained teachers on the assessment module. That's the next thing we want to do because it's big and it's very good. You should see that pages, discussions, and assignments outweigh everything else. If you see a bunch of links, these again are just those floating links that somebody just put a link there. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing that sometimes. Maybe it's a link to like the iReady login that you just need to put up there for kids to get to, and you think it's the teacher thought it was the fast way to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. I would be really, really perturbed if I saw a teacher only posting links to a bunch of PDFs or a bunch of websites to go do stuff. You know, if you go in and you see Freckle and Splash Math and all that stuff just linked and it's like, do this, I don't think that's good teaching. So that's something I would be alarmed about. We should see next to zero web packages, SCORMs, test quizzes, and external tools. You should see that be next to nothing. We shouldn't really use any of that yet. And those are much more technical things to try to do, and won't be probably ever necessary for district-wide use. So, you know, again, I'm not really worried about specific numbers. I'm more using this as a glance of, are my teachers starting to get what good instruction is, just at a glance, because these two numbers should be tiny. You can change the date range of this here, and you can focus in on certain roles here. Your roles that you'd be worried about would be teachers and students and parents. There is a GVA instructor role, and there are specialist roles that would apply to like me, and the AS and people like that. People that move buildings. If you go to system logs, I'm not going to do that because it's got a bunch of kids' names on it, but it's going to show you where people logged in from and what device they used and where they were. That's pretty creepy. I think looking at the course level for that I showed you earlier is probably better and cleaner and more specific. Over time, we won't have much use of it yet, but over time we'll have historical data, which we don't have yet. And you'll be able to export all this as a report. Again, I think this visual one isn't that useful. And when you export as a report, it looks less useful. It's more like a spreadsheet. So I know that a lot of us, myself included, thought usage analytics was going to be the place to go to get basic analytics, and it's really kind of not. It's better to look at a course level or pull up a student. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the analytics? Again, there's not a lot of options on here. Okay. So the last thing I want to show you is groups. And this is maybe the most important part of today, aside from getting into the courses. I know that was the most pressing issue, but I really need to get across these groups because this is where things could go awry on you fast. There's a built-in group called Building Group, and it is made by Schoology for your building, okay, which is just your school, obviously. It connects everybody, okay? So every kid, every teacher, and all parents connected to those kids are automatically put into a building group, okay? This isn't for your staff, it's for everyone. So think of it more like a Facebook page. I'm going to show you how to get there and what it can do, but before I go there, I want to stay on the screen just for a moment to say this is a fantastic tool for distributing content to parents in the community. It definitely shouldn't be used for intra-staff communications because it's public to parents and students of that school. Parents, via their access code linking to their students, will automatically be enrolled or added to this building. So my opinion is that if you have a vibrant Facebook community where you are already distributing content, you're probably not going to have much success in having all the parents move to the Schoology building group. If you don't have that and would like to establish it, it makes sense to go ahead and start it here while we're trying to build our community in Schoology. What I would be fearful of is doing both, right? You are either going to be faced with posting everything to both, or you're going to be faced with something that we talk about a lot as ITS, is dividing our stream, right? We don't want parents to say, is that on the Gas County webpage? Is it on the Schoology building group? Is it on the Facebook page? Where was it, right? So I would continue, I would only use this if I felt comfortable going whole hog into the Schoology building group as opposed to using it half and half with my Facebook group or any other existing communication you have out there that's working for you. But I want to show you where it is because it does work fantastically. And you don't have to manage the users of it at all. It does that for you. You'll find this by going to the top right where your name is. And teachers will see it too, obviously, like I said. You'll click on right there, you'll see your school name. If you're a member of multiple schools because you're like a GVA admin or something, you will probably have your home school should be the one you see. You'll notice that over here, I have all the other schools that I'm connected to. So if you didn't get the right school, then you can click there, okay? So mine has the faculty of Gaston County Schools, which in my case means people like me that go from different schools, people, central office people, right? But yours will already have pulled in all of your staff that are linked to your school. So that comes in for Power School as well, like everything else. But you'll notice that you can post resources here. And this is much like teachers would make content, except for you can do it here. So you can add a folder, you can add files and links inside that folder. And it's very easy to do. You'll notice that you just name the folder and type in what you want to say. It's very, very easy. Once you do that, you can add files and links. Adding a file is simply attaching it like you would to an email. And adding a link is simply pasting in a link and typing what you want to name it. Okay, it's very, very fast. You can also add discussions to this. Keep in mind that if you do this, you're doing this with your community, not your staff. So we're talking discussions that the community can weigh in on, so be careful. So you can put your title and description of the discussion, and then you can also add files, links, and resources here. And then there's this great button that teachers have. This works just like a teacher's discussion board, where you can record audio or audio and video messages to the people that can see your discussion board. People responding to the discussion board can respond using all these methods as well. And it's not unique to any platform or anything like that. You can also integrate Google stuff and other resources by hitting this button, and teachers know how to do this for sure. This is where the money's made for sure as a teacher. You come to insert content, and you can add in pictures, you can add in links this way. But what teachers are doing, I'm gonna slow down for a second and show you guys this, because this is what teachers do all the time. They're gonna go to this Google Drive resource app. And let's say you wanted to post, I'm thinking right away about some of my principals that I know that are trying to get that Title I video out to all the parents, right? You could put that sucker right here. You could go in, and this is my actual Google Drive, so you can just click here, and you're going to hit import and import embed. So you just find the file you want, click import and import embed, and it will make a snazzy little post. Now I'm not going to post this because it will fire off one of those notifications to everybody that's in this group, and I want to scare them with a video. But it'll be a video here. When you hit create, you'll see the actual video. So it does have a purpose, but if you're already doing that type of stuff in Facebook, I don't see the point in trying to move our clients, especially right now, right, with all the movement we've already had. And of course, the other thing you can do is you can submit just updates. These are just like little announcements. So you'll see they have the exact same buttons as before, except there's also a poll button where you could ask a question here and then put in the choices for a poll. Now, again, this goes out to your whole community, so you know, don't ask questions that you don't want answered, right? So you're going to get a poll feature there, which again is a lot like Facebook. Okay, so this is called a building group. It's there of it. There's no, you can ignore it or you can use it whole hog. I wouldn't do it halfway if I were using that. And there's kind of a rundown of the things that you can do in your group. What I would be more apt to do is to build my own group, and many of you have already done this. And the way you do that is you can add a group. You can add a group for your whole faculty, but you can also add your group for just anything else with anybody that's connected to your school. Okay, so it can be a parent-only group. It could be a let me run group. It could be anything. You can add kids, parents, or only teachers. So you can enroll your faculty manually or by giving them an access code, just like you did with your Google Classroom last year. And then you'll have the same abilities to post to that group as you would to the building group. So you could post updates, copy folders. You could pull in whole drive folders. And here's a video on how to do that, but I'll show you how now as well. So this is one that isn't your building group, though you're probably going to make one that looks like your building group, right? You're going to make one for your school that is for your faculty, not the community, okay? So as you might imagine, you're going to go to groups. These are the groups I'm in already. It works like a Facebook group. So I'm going to go to my groups over here. If you went past 12, it's just like my courses. It'll show all your groups. I haven't gone past 12 yet. So there's our groups. You can join a group here if somebody provides you a code, but you can create a group here. And if you do have multiple schools, you're going to want to choose the right one. You're going to name your group whatever you like. Add a description. That part doesn't matter much at all. These matter. Okay. For privacy, when it talks about organization, that's all of Augusta County schools. School is obviously just your school, and then privacy to the group. Okay. I'm going to go to privacy to that group because I want to be private to anybody in the group. I don't want anybody else seeing it. It's just for my staff. I want it to be either allow requests or invite only. I don't want this particular group to be open because I don't want parents to jump into it or students. So I'm going to do invite only. For category, it doesn't matter at all. There's categories on here that cover just about anything. I'm going to choose faculty groups, and I'm going to hit create. So you see I have the same buttons that I had for the building group, except for instead of seeing the little building, I've got the little group icon, the little people, as opposed to the school building. Okay. To add people to this group, I have a couple of options. I can send them this access code, and they, just like I would a student, we don't need to do that in Augusta County. You can have them use that code to join my group. Or if you want to, you can go to members, and you can add members to your group. And that sounds like a pain, but it's actually pretty fast. So you're going to put in selected them. You don't have to add here. You can just change to the next person and keep on going, and then you'll add them in. It will fire off an invite that they'll have to accept since they're adults. Once they accept that, and you guys, you don't, Ms. Whitworth and Chelsea, you don't have to accept that, but once they accept that, they'll be in my list here. And once they pop up in my list, if I want them to be able to like do whatever they want to the group, to add stuff, add resources in and stuff like that, I'll have to make them an admin in the group, by the way. So for them, it will say make admin right here. And then once they're an admin to the group, they can add their own resources and everything. This is the same thing we're recommending for teachers. Actually, that was one of our trainings yesterday. We recommended for teachers to make groups for their PLCs, so like their fifth grade group, or for GVA to make in their small clusters, whether it's all of fifth grade GVA or just the people that they know that they want to work with, so they can share materials. But for you, you could use it to distribute the things that you would have in a Google Classroom. The only drawback to that is this only pulls from PowerSchool. So the only people in Schoology are going to be people that are in PowerSchool. So you might have teacher assistants or janitors, your custodial staff, your bus drivers that aren't in PowerSchool that wouldn't be able to join this group. So keep in mind that the focus of Schoology is instruction. So this particular group is discussing instructional matters anyway. This isn't where I would post about, staff socials and that sort of thing. But you certainly can, but you won't be hitting everybody. Again, if you want to add resources here, you have the same options to be able to add folders and files. But notice that here, just like you would if you were using a teacher group, because we made it a teacher group like this, or a custom group, I should have said, they can add in templates or any of their instructional stuff that they can share. So this is what's happening with that GBA asynchronous material and all the stuff that academics and NTSS is putting in the academics folder. So when I add this, it says template here, and that's why this stuff gets stripped when you move the dates and whatnot that we were talking about earlier, it gets stripped off. So that's the important difference between the groups. For my money, I would push towards creating a custom group for my school as opposed to using the building one. Again, unless you don't feel like you have a good parent presence in an existing tool and you want to move it here, keeping in mind you're only going to hit parents that have connected, right? Whereas on a Facebook, yeah, they have to like your page still too, right? So just keep in mind that you're dividing your stream unless you kind of pick one, okay? But that's the importance of groups. Things we've seen so far in examples from our Schoology training have been like, if you put this in your building group, you could put your form to get parent volunteers in there and recruit. We've seen people do folders like this, where they have folders to resources that they want to share with parents. Again, volunteer opportunities, tutoring services, things that would go out to the public. We have seen people do their book studies. I had several schools that did one book, one school. A group like this would be kind of neat for that. I wouldn't put every kid in my entire building in a group. That would take a lot of time and a lot of effort to do all those access codes. But maybe if all the teachers were in there and they could contribute to the discussion or the Flipgrid that way, that'd be kind of neat to do what I know a lot of my schools did last year. And then this one is just, again, showing that you can distribute, in this case, just a bunch of resource content to the parents or to faculty, whichever way you want to use it. So that's all I have as far as the different elements of your added access in Schoology. But wow, I have a balance of 20 minutes. I felt like I talked fast. I do that when I stare at my own screen and not familiar faces. So if I need to go backwards or answer any questions, please ask.
Kyle, this is Mr. Hovis. I just had a quick question.
Yes, sir.
And I may have missed this somewhere, but I only have like one course showing up on my courses dashboard.
So yeah, that's what
it's not even one of my teachers. It's like my media course.
Gotcha. Okay. So what happens to me, the kind of the same thing. I'll see your question now, Fred. And Laura, I'll come back to you. If I search down here for a teacher, we covered this in Schoology already. Watch it work. Yeah. So in the past, when I was searching for a teacher that I know, it would only come up with student log scores. And we took that to Schoology that their search functionality over here isn't perfect. And one of the feedbacks we got from one of the trainers, as opposed to one of their engineers, was that when we make sure that we drill down by the school, that seems to help. I don't know if that was unique to me because I was a super user at the time and I could see all schools, but that seems to help. So make sure that you filter by school first. Oh, sorry. Chrissy's telling me my voice isn't great. Sorry. So filter by your school, and then Mr. Hobbs, can you give me a teacher's name, or can you give me the teacher you're looking up? I don't know anybody at your school, I don't think.
Look up Bello, B-E-L-L-O, Bello.
Yeah, so there we go. I don't know why it works that way, to be honest. I asked the guys at Schoology about that. Normally when you over filter things, you end up cutting off all your responses and get nothing. But for some reason, when you choose your school here, it works. I think it has something to do with the way my access and your access works. And they thought it might have something to do with our administrators working for a number of schools right now, but it's happening to people like people like you who aren't listed on the GBA thing. So that seems to work really well. If it doesn't, let me know though, because I enjoy giving the Schoology engineers a fit occasionally.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Laura and Rebecca, how do we get faculty out that aren't? So that's pulling from Power School. If you're looking at that building group, so are they still sitting in your Power School? That's the only thing I can think of. I can run that by Barbara and see if there's something up there. I'll give you an example for why I think that. Christy Turner, one of our ITFs for the last however long we've been in Schoology, was pulling up into only Bessemer City Primary, even though she's never worked there. And she was on there as an ITF in Power School years ago. And I guess it like archives the fact that you had a staff in 2016, 2017. And for some reason, it was still seeing her at Bessemer City Primary for whatever reason and putting her at that school, even though she needed to see all the schools. So I wonder if that person that's retired is sitting archived or even maybe active Probably not active because your ABM would be messed up. But that's what I would try, Laura and Rebecca. And then let me know, or let, I guess, Barbara know, or Steve Smith. Are there any other questions about your admin access? And then if there's any other questions that have nothing to do with admin access in Schoology, I'll be happy to answer them as best I can. Okay, Todd. All right, I'll follow up then. Were they people that you had at the beginning of this year, Todd? Oh, okay. And that's only in the building group right now.
Yes, that's the only place they're at.
Okay. So worst comes to worst, that's not hurting anything, because if they're retired, what's funny about this is if they're retired, they can't log into Schoology anyway because their email won't work. So they won't be able to do anything nefarious. But it is annoying. I get it, and I'll ask about that for sure. Because it's got to be in Power School if they got here, right? It has to be. That's the only way anything gets here. It's got to be in Power School somewhere buried. But it doesn't make sense that it's not pulling from this year's staff, so I understand. Are there any other questions? Chrissy, that's what I was starting to think, but then if it's 3 people, then it's everybody. So maybe Todd and Rebecca and Laura, maybe you can give me examples. So if y'all give me examples of names, I'll send those to you. Email them if you'd rather. Yeah, you can email it to me, and I'll get them all collected. Are there any other questions about Schoology admin access or otherwise? Thanks, Todd. Because if you just want me to show you some stuff inside of the courses while we're here, I can. Otherwise, we are done for the day. I'll give you the link. How about this? I'll give you the link to the sign-in, so that you guys that will need to get going can. And if you have questions, I'll stay in for at least till 10 to help as much as I can. Just so you know, the presentation again has the links to how to get to the Schoology group on Workplace, which I didn't even remember to mention earlier. It also has who to call for specific issues, whether it's accountability, instruction, or us. And then here's the sign-in on slide 33. But I'll copy it and put it in the chat as well, so you can click on it there, whichever computer you're on. The presentation is this guy. I'm going to stop recording for now, so it won't be stretched out.